Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Interviewing for Success workshop, hosted by the California, Nevada, Hawaii Circle K International Spring Training Conference. So I'm so happy to see everyone here. We have a lot of folks in the room, and thank you so much for chatting in your names, your year, what you're studying, your school, and it seems like we have great representation from Circle K students and advisors as well. So I see you, Scott, from Citrus. Great. Okay, so we'll get started. I'm going to share my screen here. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. All right, let's get started. Well, I hope everyone is staying healthy and safe and sane during these very unprecedented times that we live in. I know all of our lives have been turned upside down, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that we are all going through some major changes, and that for those who are in school still, I'm a lecturer at UC Berkeley, and my students have been experiencing just so many changes academically, socially, a lot of things happening with their family and friends. And dealing with a lot of changes with extracurriculars and just way of life. So I just want to acknowledge to all the students, hang in there. This is certainly a period of time where you have the opportunity to demonstrate great resiliency. And for the non-Circle Kers, maybe the alums or the advisors in the room, I think you and I know all the adult kind of like responsibilities and some of the family and our colleagues and the transitions with work maybe. So, I also want to ask you to take good care of yourselves, and hope you're doing well and hope you're doing safe and healthy as well. So I just want to kick off with that note. So today we're going to talk about interviewing for success. And the word success here, I just want to note that success can mean many different things based on your own lived experiences and notions. Feel free to define what success means for you. Is it, having a lot of money? Is it having a fabulous career? Is it being happy? Just achieving happiness or meaningfulness in your life? So success can mean many different things depending on who you are, what you have lived through, what your goals are, who you have been influenced by. So this is a word that's very broad just by definition. I encourage you to define it on your own. So I'm going to transition on to my next slide here. So typically in my workshops, I love seeing people's reactions and I love seeing people's faces. I think sometimes, especially in this very remote working environment, it's sometimes we forget to remind ourselves. Sometimes it's easy to forget about the basic human interactions and connections. So I encourage you to turn on your cameras if you're able to, and if you're comfortable to turn on your cameras. This is not a requirement, and I know some people are uncomfortable with it, and especially when things like this are being recorded, which is why I spotlighted my camera, so that when we upload the recording, only my face will show and not yours. So I see a few faces popped up. Hello. I'm just gonna do a little wave. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see your faces. This already feels more humanistic already. So I really appreciate those who are sharing their cameras. Oh my gosh, hello. I'm just scrolling through the little sidebar. Let's see, I see, oh, I wish the names can pop up on my, I wish the names could actually pop up on the where your pictures are, but I see your faces. So if everyone can do just a little wave. Hello, nice to meet you all in person through this camera. I also just want to let you all know, I want to give you a heads up to please get ready to interact and practice. This is not going to be one of those workshops where you just sit and listen and hear tips, tricks, and resources. You're going to be actually utilizing some of the strategies that I'll be teaching you on how to interview better. And I just want to acknowledge that you do not need to be perfect. This is a practice session. We're all going to start from the same place together. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, we are living in some crazy times, some very unprecedented times. Please be kind to yourselves. You must be, I don't know about you, but I'm having a lot more screen time lately, a ton of screen time. So if you need to take a break from the screen, one of my clinicians used to tell me, every 20 minutes, you should take a break from the screen for 20 seconds and look at something at least 20 feet away, the 20-20-20 rule. And if you need to go to the bathroom, do your bio break. If you need to take a sip of water or eat some snacks, please do that. If you need to stretch, please do that. Be kind to yourselves. Take good care of yourselves. How does that sound, folks? Thumbs ups. Okay, awesome. All right, let's get started. And at any point, guys, feel free to submit questions, comments. I'm the type of human that loves interaction again. And in these Zoom type workshops, I love it when folks comment and question, say oohs and ahs, and like, I don't know, asterisk mark, yay. Yes, thank you, Kevin. That's a perfect example. Ooh. So feel free to react, feel free to ask questions. Ooh, ah, thank you, Rebecca. We're gonna have fun. This is gonna be a fun hour for us between 8 and 9 p.m. Pacific time if you're located in the Pacific Coast. I'm based in California. I live in Oakland in Alameda County. So this is where I am. So great. So for those of you who don't know me, I see a lot of new faces. I know Wayne really well, and I feel like I see a couple familiar faces in this room. And just clicking through my images, I think a lot of folks I'm meeting for the first time. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Joe Lee. People literally call me Joe Lee. I've never gone by the name just Joe. So I'm Joe Lee. I'm the Golden Gate Regional Advisor for CNH Circle K International, and have been an advisor for Golden Gate, I think 5 or 6 years. And then I was a Kiwanis advisor for UC Berkeley Circle K. And I also was in Circle K International all 4 years of my college life. In fact, I joked with a lot of my friends that my major was Circle K. I spent so much time doing Circle K. I served as vice president of community service and also Kiwanis family chair for a couple of years. So much love to my Kiwanis family here. I was also in Key Club all throughout high school. I think I spent more time doing Key Club than high school like academic work. And my parents were pissed. They just did not like me being so involved with the community. I don't know why. I was the black sheep, apparently. How ironic. But I've been in the Kiwanis family since 2001. That's when I was a freshman in high school. So in 2001 through 2020, oh my goodness, 19 years. I've been in the Kiwanis family for 19 years. I hope my age doesn't reflect that, but thank you. Is it Rosalind? I think that's how you pronounce your name. Feel free to correct me. Woo! We love Kiwanis family. Hearts to everyone. I'm also a lecturer at UC Berkeley. I teach a class on Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander community health. I teach foundational theories and contemporary issues. Contemporary issues like incarceration in our Asian American Pacific Islander community, things like chronic and infectious diseases that disproportionately impact our community, like hepatitis B and tuberculosis. We recently learned about sexual violence and sex trafficking. We learned about mental health and trauma-informed care. So we talk about, it's a really awesome class. And if you're interested in learning about this class or how this class can be created and brought to your school, let me know. I want to expand my partnerships with other schools. And in my full-time, my day job, I'm a director focusing on training and technical assistance at a national association called Association of Asian Pacific community health organizations, or APCHO for short, where I am responsible for overseeing our national training program to support our community health centers that serve underserved communities across the United States and its territories. So if you're interested about my career, anything that I do, hit me up. I'm more than happy to elaborate. So why am I here today? One, Erica and Wayne pinged me a few weeks ago. They were like, hey, can you do a workshop for Circle K? I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. So that's one reason why I'm here. Another reason is I just love doing this. I have an immense passion for leadership development, especially for young people like yourselves, for students and young professionals. It's something that brings me absolute joy. And I just love just building skills and building knowledge and building confidence for folks like yourselves. And oh, thanks, Rosalind. I love that you attend my workshops. And yes, thank you, Erica, for giving me this opportunity to host. So this is my passion, and I absolutely love being here. I want to just kick off with a little bit of a tiny little lesson on this one theory that I absolutely love, and that's called Planned Happenstance. How many of you have heard of Planned Happenstance? Feel free to chat in the chat box. Have you heard about Planned Happenstance? Yes, no, kind of. I see like some heads shaking. Okay. Wayne said only from your previous workshops. So Wayne has seen this before. So Wayne, this is probably gonna be a refresher for you. I changed things a little bit, so let's see if you can catch the differences. So Planned Happenstance was created by this professor of education and of psychology at Stanford, John Crumboltz. He passed away last year. He was 90 years old, so he lived a really long life, an amazing life. And he often cited this theory of planned happenstance when it came to navigating careers and achieving career success. So to give you a quick 101 level definition of what planned happenstance is your ability of creating opportunities for yourself by taking action. So action is the key word here, on your curiosity, not your parents or guardians or peers, not their wishes and desires, but your curiosity and chance events. So I have a little story to tell you because I love telling stories. On this slide here, you'll notice that I put a picture of this room here. This is the Poly Ballroom in the MLK Student Union at UC Berkeley. And this is the, I swear to God, this is the room where my interactions that happened in this room has led me to where I am today. And this is the story. I have a friend, his name is Peter, and he was in Circle K with me at Berkeley. We were tabling on Sproul Plaza. It's like this big outdoor space where all the student organizations table and market their clubs. And one day Peter came up to me, he's like, Joe, let's go to the MLK Student Union, go to this career fair and get free stuff. And I'm like, okay, fine. So he drags me to the MLK Student Union and he's like, grab a bag, let's get free stuff. Let's get pencils and pens and notepads and yo-yos and water bottles. I'm like, okay, fine. So we're going around, I'm literally going by every employer's table, grabbing free stuff, like shoving my bag. I mean, how many of you do this? Is it just me? Is this still a thing? Okay, I see a raised hand there. I mean, I love free stuff. I just love free stuff, and my friend loves free stuff more. So I kind of followed along. And then I came across this table called the Sierra Club. And the Sierra Club is this national advocacy organization that fights for environmental justice issues. And this person, I was like signing up my name so I can get free stuff. And then this person, her name is Tracy, she said, hey, why are you interested in the environment? I'm like, well, and then I remember I was like thinking about my environmental health class, the class that I fell asleep in like every single lecture, except for this one lecture where they told me, the professor taught me that this oil industry was poisoning our communities in the East Bay. It's the Chevron oil industry, the oil refinery in Richmond of California. And I remember in that lecture, I was like so angry. I was like, oh my God, how could this big giant oil corporation industry poison our communities and cause these cancer rates and all this stuff? So I like expressed my passion around like, darn you, Chevron, like how could you poison our communities? And like the recruiter was like, like very, I think I made an impression on her. So I was like, anyway, so I signed up my name, got my free stuff and walked away. 2 weeks later, I got a call. 2 weeks later, I got a call for an interview for a position, an internship position at the Sierra Club. And I have to say that my career in community health and community organizing really launched from there. So by definition, I share that story because this is something that I took action. Well, Peter, my friend, took action by wanting to get free stuff. So I went along with him. And I partook in this chance event here that basically turned into a career that career morphed into other careers. So this planned happenstance, this is basically, constructing unexpected experiences or opportunities. And so that you can plan, you can basically, in short, this definition really talks about how do you embrace all these unexpected opportunities, right? These like chance opportunities. Think about how you found Circle K. Think about how you got to your college. Think about how you got your first job or your first internship or volunteer gig. What led you there? Is it something that you planned ever since you were 5 years old? Or did something happen in your life that led you to where you are today? Think about it and feel free to share some examples here in the chat box. So these are some characteristics of, I find that people tend to increase their chances of being successful in their careers when they demonstrate curiosity. You can demonstrate curiosity by doing informational interviews to learn about an occupation. You can take a new course to develop new skills or explore new interests. Optimism, really thinking to yourself how I can rather than I can't because. So thinking about like solutions focused, like how I can get to X, Y, Z. So it's so important to have this mentality of believing that, hey, there are new opportunities out there for you and that these opportunities are available. Risk taking. So expecting the unexpected. Sometimes you might get an unexpected phone call, like the phone call I got from Tracy from the Sierra Club. Sometimes these chance encounters might turn into career opportunities, like the one where my free stuff turned into a career opportunity. So sometimes you just have to take risks. Some of us are very low risk, right? We're very risk adverse. Some of us like to take high risks. Think about the level of risk you may want to take to create an opportunity for yourself. And then take action. Take action, follow up on these chance events. And lastly, flexibility. How can you remain open-minded enough to change your attitude so that you're likely to be able to take advantage of a chance event when one does occur? Does that make sense for y'all? Okay, I see some nods. Fabulous. All right. This is one of my favorite quotes by Louis Pasteur. Chance favors the prepared mind. How do we prepare our minds for these chance events so that we can morph these chance events into opportunity, right? So how can you be prepared? And this is why you're here, precisely. You're here to learn a new skill, and that's interviewing, right? Interviewing is probably one of those, it's an art. It's a skill that's very, that takes a lot of practice, that requires a certain level of knowledge. And I really commend all of you for being here to learn how to interview for success. And you get to define what success means for you. I'm gonna ask you all this question. What kind of opportunities may require interviews? Chat in the chat box. What kind of opportunities require interviews? Feel free to chat in the chat box. And there's no wrong answer. All right, and while I wait for folks to type in, we have 22 people in this room. This is amazing. What a great turnout. Okay, so people have said that we interview for jobs and internships, Circle K positions, officer positions for clubs, scholarships, to be orientation leaders. Thank you, Yuli, and Chris and Harshita. Thank you so much for your responses. So um, these are the different types of programs that you may interview for, right? Like higher ed programs, travel programs, internships, jobs, for networking events, informational interviewing. So, and then I'm curious to hear from you all. Why are interviews important in your opinion? Give like a word or two describing why you think interviews are important. Why do folks even ask for interviews? Why do you interview people? Chat it in the chat box or speak into your microphone. Getting to know candidates, first impressions. Exactly. We all want to get to know our candidates, the people who will potentially work with us. We want to assess for people's skills. Exactly. We want to get a chance to review the resume. It's an easier way to gauge if someone's the right fit. Exactly. So keep these in mind, guys, right? Like, this is why interviews exist. Sometimes people think, oh, interviews are just like, that barrier, to achieving that career, or that job, or that internship or club position. But it's a required step. And if you just remember, for yourself, you know what, I would want to interview someone for these very reasons, right? And Ricky says, applications can only say so much, and the on-the-spot impressions with interviews go a long way. Absolutely. I've done hundreds of interviews in my lifetime, and in my two organizations ago, I did a lot of interviews where I interviewed about 100, 150 applicants per year for an AmeriCorps program. And it's just remarkable by the quality of, applications based on someone's application by paper and their interview performance, and how they're similar or they could be very different. So let's talk about preparing for interviews, for opportunities that require interviewing. This is a brief checklist that I'm going to go over really quickly. And the third bullet here, answering the hard questions, this is going to be the time when we're going to interact with each other. We're going to do breakout rooms and do some practicing. So be ready to turn on your cameras then. So let's talk about body language. So body language is something that I would love for you guys to observe with each other in this partner activity that I'm going to time for 2 minutes total, where for each partner, for 1 minute each, you're going to do this activity where you introduce yourselves. Say your first and last name, share with your partner your aspirations, and it could be related to your career, a hobby, anything. And then describe a little bit about your experience behind those aspirations. So I'll give you an example. My name is Jolie. I am aspiring to be an executive director for a community clinic. And my experience is working in community health settings for many years. As simple as that. Very short, very sweet. And then I would encourage you to observe with each other how you introduce yourselves like this, okay? So I'm gonna do breakout rooms. Let's see, I'm gonna do automatic assortments. We're gonna do 9 rooms where there'll be 2 participants per room, and it's gonna be assorted randomly, okay? So I'm gonna give you 2 minutes, 1 minute each. Each partner gets to introduce themselves, all right? All right, I'm gonna open up all rooms and then I'll call everyone back when time is up. All right, you may go join your room right now. And for those who are joining, watching this recording, I'm gonna pause the recording and we'll resume the recording. Okay, welcome back everyone. Great, thank you so much for participating in the activity. We're going to wait for a couple more folks to return. Okay, I think everyone is back. All right, so we're going to resume this presentation. I'm curious to hear from folks before we go on. Um, what did you notice about your partner's body language? As you introduced yourselves to each other, what did you notice about your partner's body language? And it looks like Nathan said this was my first breakout room experience. So congratulations, Nathan. Isn't it cool? You're like kind of virtually transporting to another digital room and you're coming back. Indeed, yes. So what did you notice about each other's body language as you were like introducing, each other and seeing each other via camera? What did you all notice? Feel free to share. Harshita says virtual eye contact. Okay. That's definitely something that, especially at this day and age, eye contact. Posture. Definitely. Great. Okay, so feel free to chat on other things that you noticed. My partner smiled, helped made the meeting feel more welcoming. The friendliness. Ricky says Jennifer Sandoval has amazing eye contact, on point. Okay, great, awesome. So great, thank you so much. So, when interacting with folks, we tend to notice these things, right? Like eye contact, posture, friendliness, smiles and things like that. These are some body language cues that I really encourage you guys to be mindful of. One, when you're interviewing for something, first of all, making a great entrance. So in-person settings, right, and hopefully a pandemic calms down or becomes over relatively soon so we can resume our normal way of life. But making a great entrance and first impressions is so critically important. When you see the front desk person in a job setting, for example, making sure that you're just nice, to that person. Everyone you interact with, they're going to remember who you are, and remember that anyone you interact with in a building, they are likely to know the hiring manager or the person that you're interviewing with. I have a lot of stories around this where a couple of jobs ago, I would ask my front desk person, "Oh, hey, what do you think about that person?" And they'll give me the the juicy secrets, right? It's like, "Oh, this person was really great, so nice." Or, "Joe, this person was like so mean to me. Like they treated me terribly." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that tells me a lot, right? In terms of how my candidates might treat coworkers or our clients or our patients." So making a great entrance and strong first impressions matter. In remote settings like this, when you're doing remote interviews, and this is something that I'll be sprinkling in some remote interviewing tips and tricks, it's to make sure that you're signing on to Zoom or Skype or Hangouts, right, without any issues, right? Just can you, just to make sure that you're not having any technical issues right from the beginning and saving yourself from that embarrassment. And I think any technological kind of glitches can make anyone nervous, right? It can make the candidate nervous. It can make the employer or the organization they're interviewing for nervous. Shake it, don't break it. What is this? I'm talking about the handshake here. So if we were all in the same room at STC at UC Davis, I'm assuming it was going to be held there if the pandemic wasn't happening. I was going to make you guys do a handshake with each other and maybe apply some hand sanitizer right after. But shaking hands is like it's a very Western European cultural thing. In other cultures, for those who are first generation, second generation, immigrants, or naturalized citizens, you might have experienced different other ways of greeting, different customs around greetings, like a bow or making eye contact, not making eye contact. So in the Western European kind of culture, handshakes, really, really matter. At the interview desk, posture is really important in the Western European culture. Why do you think posture is important? What happens if I'm like slouching? What might that convey for some people? I'm not saying that this is, a universal thing, but if someone slouches at a desk, Yeah, Harshita says, you know, confidence or lack thereof, you might care less about the job, laziness, etc. Exactly. So, you know, a lot of, you know, in the Western European cultural references, you know, straight posture tends to say the opposite, right? Like, oh, you're confident, you're attentive, not lazy. Eye contact is really sensitive. This is a sensitive issue. I know I teach a lot of cultural humility or cultural competency trainings. And I know that not all cultures are comfortable with making eye contact, right? Sometimes eye contact can be intimidating. Sometimes it can be considered rude, things like that. But in the Western European culture, eye contact tends to be a sign of respect. And there are studies done actually that in like East Asian cultures, for example, there might be perception of like one's face being angrier or unapproachable or unpleasant when making eye contact in some East Asian cultures, whereas in the Western European culture, it's quite the opposite. It's meant to show a sign of respect and attention. And I see this a lot in like Western European kind of cultures in the job setting or in the real kind of adult world when I interact with people in partnerships and whatnot. And just visually, just from what I'm seeing with all of you, seeing your names and your last names and what I, you know, the people's faces I see on the camera, I can see that, you know, we have majority folks of color, right? Majority folks of color here. Woo -hoo. And then, you know, I think we all come from very different cultures and backgrounds, and we just need to acknowledge that, right? That there are these cultural nuances. And then the art of departing. So making sure that you're not like, you know, tripping over anything on your way out of the building, or you're not logging off too soon or things like that. One time I interviewed for my second job in my career, was at a local city government agency. And I remember after the interview, I got so excited. I was like, okay, I'm done. I rocked it. I'm gonna like walk out of here real fast. So I like sped walk out of the building. And my supervisor was trying to like chase after me, trying to wish me a goodbye. But I like walked out the door like too fast. And I heard my supervisor, well, thank you for coming, Joe. And I turned around and I was like a block away. I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were like coming after me. But it was so embarrassing. So just being mindful of like how you know, depart. The good news is I got that job. Phew. So I must have done something right in that job. So these are just some body language, you know, tips here. And then let's see, let's talk about attire really quickly before we go into answering hard questions. So I just put up some random images here, you know, thanks to unsplash.com. You know, when I think of clothes, these are some of the clothes that I think of. What standard advice that you guys have heard in terms of what is, you know, considered appropriate in an interview setting? What have you heard, or what do you know of, or what do you think is appropriate? What's a standard advice that you received? Chat it in, or feel free to speak in the microphone. Dress to impress, button up, business casual, depends on the job. So traditionally, and typically in some career services that you guys might come across, professional dress is usually taught in a way that separates what is considered appropriate male and female dress. So, so folks, you know, may not come across, you know, resources, especially if you are someone with, you know, a non-binary gender identification. This is something that I personally think is really important to acknowledge. So for example, like, you know, this is something that you may have seen, right? Like, you know, for females, you know, it's really, you know, recommended to wear a coordinated blouse and conservative shoes and limited jewelry. For males, they should, you know, wear a suit. They should have dark socks, little or no jewelry. But let's face it here, this is 2020. This is 2020. We really need to be mindful of this kind of gender conforming society that we live in, right? And my big tip here for you is dress for impact and success, and define that for yourself. Define that for yourself. And I found this some really great tips in terms of, you know, some of you said this, right? Depends on the job. Like, learn about, get to know about your industry, right? What is your industry typically seek? Think about your geographic location. Maybe wearing a tank top in like East Coast winter setting may not be the greatest idea, or wearing a fur coat in like hot summers in like Sacramento may not be the best idea. So, you know, think about your geographic location, time of year, research the company or organization you want to work or volunteer for, contact the HR department. Contact the HR department and seek out advice. That's just totally appropriate to do. Also, when in doubt, you can overdress. If you need help shopping, sometimes department stores have these free like fashion advice givers. Observe your level of professionalism. What does that mean? Does it mean like having clean nails, like less wrinkles, like polished shoes, right? And then I have a resource here for androgynous clothes for interviews and work. So if you're looking for style, advice for, if you're a gender non-conforming, you're looking for gender non-conforming styles, there's definitely a link here for you to click on and for you to explore. And I'm going to actually chat in the chat box. Here you go. This website, thebalancecareers.com, there's a really great resource for gender neutral interview and business clothing tips right there. All right. This is something that I found from the National Association of Colleges and Employers and Stetson University. So thank you to NACE and Stetson. These are just some gender inclusive dress guidelines that I found. So if you're looking for, business professional, solid and dark colors are typically worn. For business casual, nice pants, slacks, ties are optional. Maybe a jacket. So general recommendations, I think you should see on the right-hand side. Normally in this Western kind of European kind of culture setting, clothes should typically be tailored and good condition, wrinkle and lint free. I want to make a point about jewelry and fragrance. Jewelry and fragrance is something to be mindful of. There are a lot of folks in the professional workplace setting that are very sensitive to fragrances. And so if you're a type of person that wears really heavy perfume or cologne or deodorant, think about maybe, switching to something that has very mild fragrance or no fragrance. This is something that's recommended, and you certainly don't want to cause any allergic reactions, right, when you walk into a room. So this is more of a health concern. Okay, any questions around here? This is just some guidelines again, gender inclusive dress guidelines. Any questions around what we have covered so far? We covered body language and attire. Okay, let's get straight into answering the hard questions. All right, so it's interview time, okay? What's the hardest question that's really difficult for you to answer? What do you think it is, in your opinion? What's the hardest question to answer? Ryan says, tell me about yourself. How many people agree with that? Harshita says, what are your weaknesses? Okay, I'm gonna give a quick tip about that. Be honest about your weaknesses and then pivot of how you improved on those weaknesses. For example, one of my weaknesses is time management. Ooh, red flag. Like, why would you say that you suck at time management, right? But pivot with the word but I have greatly improved in this area by keeping a calendar and organizing my priorities and getting stuff done. And this is how I've done it. So you switch the mood, right, of the response from negative to positive. So Harshita, try that. So these questions, what Ryan and Andy and Uli have asked, and Erica, tell me about yourself. Why should we select you? How capable are you? Wow, that's a very interesting question. How capable are you? Tell me about yourself is the hardest question. 99% of the time I ask folks, and this workshop I've done for like a decade, and folks usually say it's the tell me about yourself. Now, this is the mistake that I usually see from candidates. And I'm gonna give you a performance here, okay? So when I ask people, tell me about yourself, people usually go in chronological order, okay? They talk about their past, and then their present, and then their future. Sometimes their future. So it goes something like this. Please, someone ask me, tell me about yourself. If anyone can speak into the microphone and pretend you're the interviewer.
Joe, please tell me about yourself.
Why, thank you, interviewer. Okay, so yeah, I'm glad to tell you about myself. Oh gosh, where to start? I was born in Castro Valley of California, in this town, and then went to this high school called Castro Valley High School. And I joined a club called Key Club, and I loved community service. And then after high school, I went to college, and I went to UC Berkeley. And what did I major in? I majored in interdisciplinary studies field major, and it was really a great major. And then I pretend I'm talking 10 more minutes about my major. And I'm just really passionate about public health, and pretend I talked 5 more minutes about public health. And then I was really involved in community service because I love community service. So that's a little bit about myself that I would not want you to know about. And because of my love for community service, I was really passionate about serving the underserved communities. And I worked for the Sierra Club, and then I worked for a local city government agency. And then I loved community health so much that I went back to a community-based organization. And then I worked for another community health organization to expand my learnings. And then now I work at a national association, and I just really love community health. And this is a little bit about me and my career. So this is what I typically hear. What did you guys notice about that kind of response? What did you notice? And pretend I did speak for those 10 extra minutes or 5 extra minutes. What are your critiques? Feel free to tell me, be very blunt, like what was wrong with that kind of response? Lack of variety. It sounds like you're making a list. You went really far back and also could have grouped similar things together since they were under the same category. Thank you, Jennifer. It takes a while to get to the part they would actually care about. Exactly. So here's the secret formula, guys. Talk about your present first as it relates to the opportunity that you're applying for. Then dig a little bit into your past as it relates to the opportunity that you're applying for, okay? And then talk about your future goals as it relates to the opportunity that you're applying for, all right? What's the key word here? It's relevance. Make sure your response is relevant to the opportunity that you're applying for, and go in this order. People usually like to know, like in small talk or like networking settings, like, people like, ask like, oh, what do you do? This is a very Western European thing. Like, oh, well, like, what do you do, for work, or what's your position in Circle K? Like it's people like in Europe or something, or like in Asia, sometimes people lead with like, what do you like to do for fun? But here in America, it's like, what do you do? Like, let's add a value to your to your existence by assessing what you do. So lead with what you do currently, and then talk about the past and future. So here's an example, okay? I'm gonna give you hopefully a good example. So I'm starting with the present. So who was that person that asked me to tell me about yourself? Can that person please ask me one more time? I felt like that was a great
It was
interview.
me, yeah, I can. Joe, please tell me about yourself.
Thank you, Erica. I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to. So, and someone time me here, okay? So currently I am the Training and Technical Assistance Director of the Association of Asian Pacific Community Health Organizations, where I am responsible for overseeing training programs that support health center providers in medically underserved communities across the United States and its territories. In the past, I used to provide workforce consulting for a group of 8 health center organizations in the East Bay, where I had the privilege of developing partnerships and working with high-level executives. My love for partnerships started out in my local city government, where my partnership work led me to discover my passion in community health and social justice at Lifelong Medical Care. And my passion for social justice actually comes from my grassroots organizing days in Sierra Club, where one of my goals was to literally shut down an oil factory. In the future, I hope to be in a position where I can lead a healthcare organization dedicated to eliminating health disparities in communities of color and achieving health equity for all. And to be able to do that, we need to take a proactive approach on addressing social determinants of health. End scene. So I think I timed myself here according to the clock I see. I think I answered this in about a minute or less. Wayne said, OMG, 1 minute and 5 seconds. Yeah, okay, great. Thanks, Erica. Seems like you timed me too. Um, what was different about that response, guys, in your opinion? The way I framed my response, and I should have led that I was applying for like an executive director position, for example, but what was different about that response? What did you notice? Some key qualities or characteristics? And I'll give you a moment to type in your thoughts here. There's no wrong answer. Relevant key terms. Yeah, Rebecca. Yeah, I try to emphasize the word partnerships, right? Because I'm really passionate about partnerships. Wayne says very concise. Everything you said was relevant and important. Nathan says very uniformitarian answer. Thank you, Nathan. You're bringing up your past in order to say something about you as a person now. Thank you, Harshita. Short and concise. Shows what you're doing right now and why. The why is the biggest part, right? People want to know why you're pursuing a position, right? Is it just for funsies, or do you really want to make a difference, right? Since there's less listed, there's more emphasis on what you're passionate about and is relevant. And do you guys sense that passion from my voice, right? It's like I'm really passionate about community health, social justice, and partnerships. And partnerships has been a theme in my world. So I'm going to now encourage you guys to do the same, okay? Think about where you are right now. Most of you are students. Most of you are members or officers of Circle K. Think about where you are right now, okay? Let's think about maybe a position that you're going to apply for. Is it an officer position? Is it an internship role or job after college? Think about where you are right now. And then dive a little bit into, the experiences you've had and the skills that you gained previously, like your passion, for example, okay? As it relates to the opportunity you're seeking. And then think about your aspirations. Dream big with your aspirations, okay? Because sometimes interviewers like that that vision, like, oh, I could really see Erica, being the president of the United States, like, and and I think my company, my organization can help her get there. Wayne says true, she agrees. Let's think about it for a moment. I'm gonna give you like 5 seconds of silence. Think about it really carefully, where you're right now, a little bit in the past, and then future. Okay. Rosalind says that Erica's a powerful woman. I agree. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna break you guys out into rooms again. Okay, you have 2 minutes each to talk about your present, your past. Literally use these words, okay? Presently, I am. In the past, I did. In the future, I would like to, all right? And just practice. Don't judge each other. This is a safe space. We're just practicing this for the first time, all right? Do your very best. Okay, I'm gonna open all rooms. Enjoy. You can go to all rooms now. All right, and for those who are listening to the recording, I'm going to pause this recording and we'll resume. Okay, welcome back, folks. We're just waiting on a couple more people to come back into the rooms. All right. Okay, if you click gallery view, you'll see all the wonderful and beautiful faces of Circle K in here. Hello. Thank you so much for participating. So I just, before I debrief with you all, I realized it's 8:59 Pacific time already. Oh my God, the hour just kind of flew by. And I have about 20 to 30 minutes of more content left. And to give you a heads up, it's about answering like behavioral-based questions or scenario-based questions and some really quick tips about how to prepare, other tips to prepare yourself. So if you want to stick around for about 20 to 30 more minutes max, so this will end at 9:30 p.m. Pacific at the latest, feel free to stick around. If you can't stick around, no hard feelings. You've been told that you only need to attend for like an hour. Okay, so how are folks feeling about that? For sticking about 20, 30 more minutes? Thumbs up. Okay, great. And if you need to leave, please feel free to leave. Okay. All right. So I would like to actually, I'm going to randomly select a person, a breakout room let's see, who are my breakout room folks here? I'm gonna do Jonash and Bruce. I know you guys are like, oh, don't choose me, don't choose me. So Jonash and Bruce, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Please turn on your microphone or unmute yourself and describe to us how was that for you in doing the tell me about yourself. Just give us your honest feelings.
I guess I'll be honest that like because we know each other already, we just kind of like quickly repeated what our present, past, and future was like, and then just ended up having a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys know each other really well. Okay, no worries. I'm going to select my next, I don't want to say victims, but let's see. How about Jennifer and Henry? Jennifer and Henry, would you like to share how that experience was like for you in terms of to tell me about yourself?
Wait, could you repeat that again? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. How was that? How was it for you in terms of responding to the question, tell me about yourself, and using that strategy, starting with present and then past and future? What are your,
Right.
how was it for you, Henry?
Yeah, I was a nervous wreck. I was barely able to answer the questions properly. Uh, but that's because this is the first time I was exposed to this. Well, I mean, I've always done it past, present, future for
Yeah,
my interviews.
yeah.
So I usually have like a script ready for when it's like past, present, future. But then like switching it up, I was like not prepared for that. So I
Yeah.
kind of just like went on a lot. But I mean, I think I can definitely see like the value behind that. But yeah, it was pretty bad for me.
No worries. This is a practice session, right? We're in a safe space and this is totally fine. So it's very normal. And this is a great thing about the tell me about yourself, right? You can memorize this, right? You can get it down. You can like practice it. This is the one question that you know everyone's gonna ask, right? So you can definitely practice this and do it really well from the beginning of the interview so that you can achieve that confidence from the very beginning. How about you, Jennifer? How was this for you?
So in interviews, I also do the past, present, future. So it was kind of like I knew generally what I was gonna say. It was just tailoring, like doing the transition from present to past. I kind of started it by saying like, oh, I'm majoring in this because my passion started when I was really young, and that's how I like tied it to my past. But then
Good.
I was like caught off guard by that, so I went like too far back, and then I was like, wait, scratch that, forget, I didn't do that, and then I moved to something else. But yeah, I really like the format of that and how you can tie things in together.
Great. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing and for trying. And thank you all. That's it. I'm not gonna call anyone else, so you can like not be nervous. But thank you. Round of applause for the folks who expressed their experiences. So great. Okay, I'm gonna move on really quickly and be mindful of time. I see most of you. Looks like most of you decide to stay on, which is an honor. So I'm going to move forward. So these are some other questions that you might be asked, okay? And feel free to let me know, if this is something that if you want quick tips on how to answer these questions, like Harshita mentioned, like how do you answer, what are your weaknesses, right? Pivoting is a strategy, right? This question, like what makes you unique from other candidates or how do you stand out? Choose a few adjectives for yourself, right? Are you organized? Are you timely? Are you passionate? Are you collaborative? And stick to those words, repeat those words, okay? And adult learning principles for folks when they're meeting someone for the first time, it's like when you create friendships, you know your friends by particular, you identify your friends because, or sorry, let me rephrase this. You choose your friends because you like a particular characteristic about them, right? They could be really funny, they could be really outgoing, or you might think of a particular characteristic of a leader, right? Like, oh, they're really charismatic, right? Like, repeat those words, those qualities, so it really sticks in people's minds. So these are just some tips for success here. Okay, so if you have any other, like and one other key, takeaway here is that you can never be, it's impossible to tell you the truth. It's impossible to really absolutely know what questions are going to be asked in an interview setting. It's impossible to prepare yourself, but what you can prepare yourself is is to tell me about yourself question, and also the scenario-based questions. So the scenario-based questions, these are known as behavioral questions. And these behavioral questions can be tricky, and some of you may be familiar with them. They really assess for your ability to work in a team setting. They assess for your leadership ability. They assess for how you handle conflict. I had some really interesting responses with this one in the past, where folks, I had this one guy in an interview setting. I was like, oh, how do you handle conflict? He's like, oh, I basically go to that person, tell it how it is, and make sure that conflict gets solved. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm not gonna hire you because I think it's gonna just create more tension. Or how do you solve problems? How do you deal with failure, right? So people just wanna get to know how you deal with these kinds of things here. Some of the things that are asked are, describe a time when you face a stressful situation. And if you're the interviewer, these are actually some good questions that you guys should ask. Give an example of a time you set a goal and achieved it. Tell me about a time when you delegated effectively. Now, like I said earlier, it's impossible to prepare for all interview questions out there in the world, right? You will never know who's going to ask what, but what you can be prepared for are your life stories. So you can come with, in your back pocket, come with 3 to 5 stories that you feel like where it's a story where you took action and that action resulted in something good or something bad. And if it's bad, what did you learn from it? Okay, so for example, I'm going to give you this quick formula here, the secret formula. This is how you organize your thoughts. How many of you have a problem that I do? Like when you explain something, when you answer a question, you tend to ramble. Someone can just ramble on, and okay, I see some hands up here. How many of you have this issue? Feel free to chat it in or raise your hands. You tend to ramble on and on and on about a story and just don't know when to stop. So yeah, a bunch of us do, and it's very normal. So this is a formula that I really encourage you to follow. People don't want to know the entire story. They don't care about the name of the person you had a conflict with, and whether they're what their life story is about. And people don't like complainers in general. You don't want to just talk about the situation only when you're answering the question tell me about a time when. Okay, people want to get to know what you did. Okay, so I took action by, and then what did that result? This resulted because of my action. This resulted in. And then what are some lessons learned? I learned from this experience that, and fill in a blank. Okay, so if you guys want an example, I'm gonna, before I break you guys out to practice this, I'm gonna give you an example of, tell me about a time when you had to work with a difficult team member or colleague. Okay, so this is my response. The situation was, that's a great question. Thank you, interviewer, Erica. So the situation was when I worked with a difficult manager who really embraced the micromanagement, kind of the micromanagement philosophy. This person loved micromanaging, and this is the situation I was in. So this was an issue. I took action by proactively having a conversation with my manager as to how we can find more ways to check in about my progress of my work. And so we sat down and we looked through all my projects and agreed on a certain place and time where I would do weekly reports for my manager instead of my manager checking in every 30 minutes. This resulted in a lot less stress for me, more confidence for my manager, who I later learned that she actually had a boss she had to report to, that she had to report frequently to, and that this organized communication style actually resulted in these weekly reports that were organized and for everyone, for myself, for her, and for her boss. And this lesson, I learned a critical lesson here, and that is that just because someone does something a certain way, don't take it personally. Don't assume that they're doing it just to make your livelihoods really hard. Sometimes you have to proactively communicate and proactively reach out to see if you can find a better solution together, and you can achieve this win-win for everyone. So that's and that is how, and to conclude, that's how I this is a time when I had to work with a difficult team member or colleague. So what do you guys notice about that kind of response when I just kind of like said it like this, in terms of like I address the situation, the action, results, and lessons learned? Do you guys notice anything in particular with that approach? What are your thoughts? And feel free to chat it in. I'll give you some time to type in your responses. Thank you, Kevin. You didn't make the difficult person sound like a monster. Yes. So sometimes it's pretty diplomatic, right? Because when you complain about someone, right, it's easy to bring up a bad story, right? And that can make you look really bad. Harshita says it ties together really nicely at the end. It demonstrates that you can stay calm and polite as much as possible. I mean, we can all think of that person that's been a pain in the butt, right? Like we can all think of that one person, right? It could be a classmate, it could be, a fellow person, an officer maybe in a club organization. So I think that's something that, how do you portray your leadership, teamwork, problem-solving abilities in a professional way? So this is the one last breakout that we're going to do together. Okay, I'm going to encourage you to choose one person to ask the question, tell me about a time when you had to work with a difficult person. And then one person to use the SARL method, S-A-R-L. Talk about your situation. Use the words, the situation was, I took action by, this resulted in, I learned that, etc. Okay. So let's try practicing this right now, and then we'll close with final tips for the rest of the evening. Okay, so I'm gonna break out folks. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna open up all rooms. You have about 3 minutes to answer this question. All right, only one person answers the question. All right, opening all rooms now. Recording. Spotlight my video. Okay. All right. So we'll give about 10 seconds for folks to get booted out of their rooms. Okay. All right. Really quick reactions, guys. How was that for you? Was it, my partner was Harshita. Harshita and I got to practice, and I'm gonna keep it confidential about how she felt, unless she wants to share. But how was it for you guys? Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for participating. How was it for you following that structure? Situation, action, results, lessons learned. I'm gonna pick on one person I haven't called on yet, so you can explain to us. Is Rebecca Watch here?
Yeah.
Hi, Rebecca. How was this for you?
I like the structure of it all, but I think just like trying to think of the situation in a non-complaining and like kind of neutral way was really hard.
Yeah.
I kind of want to script for it, so.
Yeah, it is difficult, right? It's really difficult to like not sound complainy, right? And this is something that you can prepare for, right? And how many of you kind of dealt with that struggle in terms of like not not trying to like prevent yourself from complaining. Okay, so Nathan kind of felt like that too. Harshita. Well, I thought Harshita, you did a wonderful job. And you know, y'all should ask Harshita how she responded to her question. But you guys, I mean, you guys had a particular challenge here, right? You had to think of a story on the spot and apply this method right away. So so kudos to you for practicing that. Try practicing that for other stories, okay? And when you you know, talk about this, you may feel more organized in your own head and prevent yourself from rambling, right? And for the listener, for the interviewer, like Harshita was my partner, when she told her story and she used the situation, action, lessons learned, results and lessons learned, in my head, I was like, oh, okay, so she took action by doing this. This is what she learned. I agree with that lesson learned. So it kind of develops that connection, right? So this is something that's really, really powerful, and it's a really good mind trick, without, you know, tricking the person in a bad way. So I'm gonna just move on and close out on a few more tips here for you guys. And again, really kudos to you all for sticking around. At the end of the interview, it's your turn to ask the questions. These are some questions that you could ask your employers or some schools. You know, like, what does your typical day look like? What is your vision for this company? Why do you enjoy working for this company? Why do you think it's important to ask people, you know, questions at the end of the interview? It's really important because it demonstrates your curiosity, your investment, right? So think about the questions that you want to ask. And if anyone else wants to chime in about that, please feel free to. Look at this question number 3. Do you have any concerns or reservations about me as a candidate for this position? Sometimes it's okay to ask this question if you feel like you bombed your interview, or like if you feel like you need that validation, right? Sometimes the interviewer can be truthful about, you know, something that you need to, you know, work on, like maybe you need more years of experience, or maybe a skill that you may lack. It's a really good quality improvement opportunity for you to assess, okay, this is what I need to work on, so you can use that learned opportunity to be better next time around. Last but not least, let's talk about preparation. All right, in the home stretch here, how many of you have heard of informational interviews? Have you heard about informational interviews? Type in yes or no, or maybe in the chat box. And let's see who, okay, we have a yes, we have a no, okay. No, maybe, okay, I don't think so, okay. So informational interviews are really powerful. These are informal conversations that you can have with anyone at any time. So this is, for example, I can have an informational interview with a CEO of a community health center that I really want to work for, so that I could, you know, learn about like, you know, her or his, you know, everyday responsibilities. So in an informational interview, I can ask very informally, you know, as a student or as an applicant, I want to learn about, you know, like, what do you do in your job? What do you like about your company? What do you not like about your company? These are informal conversations. So if some of your officers or members, I encourage you to reach out to each other and do informational interviews. Ask for 30-minute informational interviews by phone, by chat, by Zoom. These are very informal conversations, and there's no threat, right? There's no threat around, oh, this person's trying to, like, you know, work for my company, or this is a job seeker, or, you know, like, informational interviews are what it is by the sounds of it. It's purely informational, okay? Very non-threatening. It's a really great way to network, and really great way to connect with people and build that network. Part of your preparation should be Googling yourself. Try Googling your name and what pops up. Is it you at a party, or is it you in a academic setting, or is it you in a research paper? Think about what appears for you, okay? Try looking up yourself on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and all these fabulous social media sites. One thing that not a lot of people know about are applicant tracking systems. And a lot of employers, in my last job, I used to work with looking at different applicant tracking systems, or ATS vendors. Some people use Cisco, some people use like Recruiter Box, or there are so many different types of ATS vendors out there. And there's just one thing that you guys should know about. The applicant tracking systems have AI capabilities, so that they can actually search for your name across the interwebs of the internet. Recruiters no longer have to manually search for your name. the AI kind of features do that for the recruiters. So it's kind of scary, right? It's like, so just make sure you're, that if you're searchable, make sure that you have a clean profile, okay? Or a professional profile, or just disable your social media for the time being so that AI can't really detect your profile. So this is a quick tip, all right, for those who may wonder what happens behind the scenes for recruiters, because I used to do a lot of recruitment. LinkedIn is the #1 professional social media platform for professionals out there. There are over 575 million folks registered. If you don't have a LinkedIn, create one today. Even if it's blank, find me on LinkedIn, send me a request, let's get connected. If you have a LinkedIn, update it on a monthly basis if you can. It's a lot of fields in there. There's a lot of amount of information that you have to put in there, but trust me, this is probably the best kind of like digital or resume or CV that you can put out there and make yourself easily searchable. And a lot of AI technology, they let headhunters and recruiters know about your existence if you have a LinkedIn profile. So you might get reached out or sought after based on what you put on your LinkedIn profile. So connect with me on LinkedIn. You can look for me, Joe Lee. Keep calm and practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect. If some of you are instrumentalists like I am, I play the violin. We all know that when you practice continuously, there's perfection, right? You can reach almost perfection. So practice your tell me about yourself, practice your SARL method, situation, action, results, lessons learned, do your research. If you're gonna go into in-person interviews, bring 3 copies, hard copies of your resumes and references or portfolios that you wanna bring. Eat a good breakfast, plan your outfit, and practice mindfulness. How many of you get nervous like I do right before interviews? Yes, I get nervous all the time. I get nervous all the time. And this is a normal human reaction. Acknowledge that, embrace it. Tell yourself this is normal. Go to the bathroom if it's an in-person interview or right before remote interviewing, go to the bathroom, look at yourself in the mirror, do a superhero pose, do like a really cool, just you got this, just give yourself a, thumbs up. There's a study that shows that when you're visually seeing yourself being very confident, it really boosts confidence, mentally and emotionally. So you want to go in with, strong confidence. And practice mindfulness. There are a lot of great mindfulness apps out there like Headspace and Calm and Breathe. Just take a moment to breathe right before an interview so you can calm your energy and go in with good juju. So other tips, remember to keep your answers brief and concise by using the strategies that you have learned tonight. Bring in 3 or more stories with you. Okay, these stories are really powerful. Humans love storytelling. Did you guys enjoy my stories about getting free stuff at the at the MLK Student Union and my interview experiences? People love hearing stories. Repeat your strengths at least 3 times. Are you an organized person? Just talk about how you're an organized person 3 times. Put yourself on their team. Remember, interviews are a 2-way street. It's like dating. It's like relationships and friendships. Interview is not a 1-way street. Yes, they're interviewing you to get to know you, but you are also interviewing them to get to know them, right? Because who wants to spend their life with crappy people in a crappy organization if you find out, right? But if you find out that, oh, these are wonderful humans in a wonderful organization, put yourself on the team. It's your chance to get to know them. It's a 2-way street. Interviewers are just as nervous as interviewees. Every time I interview someone, I just hired a program manager recently. I was so freaking nervous about all the candidates I was meeting because they were just so fabulous. I just had so much respect for them. So, and I'm a director of a national association. I mean, some people might think, oh, this person must be I don't know, I should be nervous interviewing this person, but it's quite the opposite. I'm just as nervous. Maintain a conversational flow. When you have this conversation, reach a conversational flow, and you have this kind of very loose kind of conversation instead of Q&A. Your interview is going well. Do your research, follow up. Follow up is so important. This is something that a lot of people don't do. Send a thank you email better yet, write a thank you note and, you know, write it in a card, mail it to them. It leaves a really strong impression, regardless of generation, whether you're a baby boomer, millennial, you know, digital darling, or Generation Z. Feel free, you know, do follow-ups. Follow-ups are amazing. And lastly, keep a journal for yourself. Keep track of your interview performance, and study yourself, you know, how you perform. Did you succeed, not succeed in an interview? So it really helps you with quality improvement. You can improve your own quality. So that's it, folks. You got your quick strategies in an hour and 20 minutes or so. We started a few minutes late. Body language attire, answering the hard questions preparation. Remember, plan to act on happenstance to transform your unplanned events into opportunities. So think about all those wonderful chance events. Remain curious, be optimistic, especially during times like this. I know some of you are graduating into a tough world here, and trust me, I know. I graduated into the recession 10 years ago. So stay optimistic. Optimism is really, really key, okay? Take risks, take action, be flexible about your opportunities. Be very flexible. And then it's all about, remember, it's all about the attitude that you take. The attitude that you gain and the actions you take. And remember that chance favors the prepared mind. And I just think this picture is just really cute in general. So chance favors the prepared mind. Thank you. Thank you so much for your participation and engagement. You guys have been amazing. I'm gonna stick around for about 10 minutes to answer any questions, but you're welcome to log off because it is really late, especially if you're on the East Coast or elsewhere in the world. Stay in touch. My name is Joe Lee. This is my email address, joelee36@gmail.com. Copy it down, email me at any time. And then looks like Erica sent a link for you to sign in. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Joe H. Lee. If you took pictures or videos, you're gonna mention or you give me a shout out, tag me on Instagram, on IG stories, and let's stay in touch. And if you need any career coaching, reach out to me at any time. So thank you and have a good night, everyone. I'm going to pause this recording. Thank you for those who are watching this recording. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. All right. Thank you and good night.